Chapter 1. A Marriage of Convenience. If someone had told Cale Thorne 3 years ago that he'd end up married to his company's most irritating rival, he would have laughed in their face, spat out his wine, and then sued them for emotional damage. But life had other plans. Cruel, corporate, family duty-shaped plans. Wedding night. Lavish hotel suite. The wedding suite was so silent it could have been mistaken for a library, if libraries were filled with passive-aggressive tension and overpriced floral arrangements. Oren Vale, 24, boy genius CEO of Vale Industries, and infuriatingly attractive, sat on the plush velvet couch flipping through the wedding contract. Cale, then 32, CEO of Thorne Corporation, stood by the minibar like a man debating whether he should poison the champagne or just himself. Oren said dryly, "So, Mr. Thorne, shall we go over the contract again or skip to the awkward silence part?" Cale replied without missing a beat. "I was hoping you'd choke on your wine and leave me widowed before the first night, but alas, here we are." "How romantic," Oren drawled, smirking. "I'll frame that in our wedding album." They signed the contract without looking at each other. 3 years, fake marriage, public appearances, no real emotional involvement. Divorce by mutual agreement at the end. "Perfect," Oren said, rising. "I'll set an alarm for the divorce party." "Make it loud. Wouldn't want to miss the confetti," Cale muttered, downing the entire glass of champagne. They shared the same bed that night, rigidly lying on opposite sides like mortal enemies in a ceasefire. Neither slept. First few months. The first 3 months were a minefield of petty sabotage. Cale drank black coffee. Oren replaced it with imported peppermint beans for gut health. Oren liked classical jazz. Cale switched the penthouse speakers to metal rock at 3 a.m. because the silence was too loud. Their shared walk-in closet became a silent battlefield. Cale color-coded everything. Oren hung a neon green hoodie right in the middle like an act of war. 6 months later. Morning routine. Cale yelled from the kitchen, "Did you drink the last of my oat milk again?" Oren, lounging on the counter with toast in his mouth, replied, "It expired. I was protecting you. You're welcome." "You replaced it with chocolate syrup." "You're welcome again." Despite their petty fights, there were glimmers of domesticity. Cale noticed that Oren always left the bathroom light on for him if he worked late. Oren learned Cale hated cold sheets and started switching on the bed warmer an hour before bedtime. They didn't talk about it, but it happened anyway. Vacation ski resort. Disaster. Cale hated snow. More specifically, Cale hated snow when it was his husband's idea. "How do you wear this cursed thing?" Cale growled, tangled in his ski boots. Oren laughed, actually laughed. "You're wearing them backwards. Stop walking like a newborn giraffe." "I have a degree from Yale," Cale grumbled. "Good for you. Maybe next time try YouTube." They bickered their way up the ski slope, but Cale couldn't stop thinking about that laugh. It was deep, boyish, too charming. He refused to admit how warm it made him feel under 10 layers of thermal wear. 1 year mark. Quiet dinner at home. The kitchen smelled of roasted garlic and lemon. Cale had cooked. Oren had set the table. Neither acknowledged it. "You know," Oren said as he sipped his wine, "we're not that bad at this fake marriage thing." Cale hummed. "In fact, I might even say I enjoy your company, on alternate Thursdays." "How scandalous," Cale said dryly. They both smiled. Small, crooked, but real. 2 years in domestic chaos. Cale returned from a meeting to find Oren asleep on the couch with a cat curled on his chest. "Whose cat is that?" Cale asked, pointing. "Mine now," Oren murmured, eyes half open. "He followed me home." "We're allergic." "He's hypoallergenic." "That's not how allergies work." Cale stormed off, but not before grabbing his phone to take a picture. Later that night, the cat stayed. So did Cale. Neither mentioned it. 2.5 years later. The bed they shared. They still didn't say "I love you." But there were cuddles. Oren always reached out for Kale in his sleep. Arm draped over his waist, face buried in the crook of his neck, Kale no longer pulled away. Instead, he sighed and adjusted the blanket. They weren't lovers. But they weren't strangers anymore. And that terrified Kale. Because in his heart, he had already fallen. But he never said it out loud. Not when Oren had his whole life ahead. Not when Kale was older, less exciting, less enough. The trigger. Oren's office unexpected visit. One rainy afternoon, Kale dropped by Oren's office to deliver the blueprints he had promised to check. He stepped out of the elevator just in time to hear the receptionist say, "Mr. Vale, your 3 p.m. appointment person is here." A familiar voice followed. "Surprise, Ren. It's been a long time." Kale froze. Through the glass doors, he saw Oren standing, stunned. Across from him stood a beautiful man, tall, graceful, familiar in the way only first loves could be. Oren's ex. Kale watched them smile at each other. It wasn't romantic, not yet, but it was familiar, too familiar. He felt old, tired, replaceable. He turned before they could see him. That night bedroom. Kale sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his reflection in the mirror. Oren walked in, loosening his tie. "You were quiet today," Oren noted. "Work?" Kale said simply. "Something happen?" Oren stepped closer, concern in his voice. "No, nothing happened," Kale said, offering a smile. It didn't reach his eyes. Oren reached for Kale's hand. Their fingers touched. Kale didn't pull away. But in his mind, he was already planning something. Not yet, not now. But soon. Chapter 2. The Goodbye. Kale hadn't meant to spy. He'd only gone to Oren's office to drop off the files he'd worked all night on. He had barely slept, the deadline looming like a storm. He told himself he wasn't expecting anything from Oren. He wasn't hoping for a kiss, or a thank you, or anything. And yet, when the elevator doors opened, what he saw made his heart stop. Outside Oren's office, Oren stood across from a tall, elegant man, face soft with familiarity. His ex, the same one Kale had seen in a tabloid once, laughing with Oren on a yacht. Their silhouettes framed like a fairy tale. "You look good, Ren," the man said, reaching out to adjust Oren's tie with ease. Oren chuckled, distracted. "You haven't changed either." Kale stood frozen behind the glass, invisible, like he always feared he'd be. That smile on Oren's face. It wasn't how he smiled at Kale. It was lighter, unburdened. That was the smile of someone who belonged. Kale turned around, quietly, carefully, like the floor was made of glass and he couldn't afford to let it crack beneath his shoes. The penthouse. Later that night, Oren was in deep sleep, and Kale slowly got up and looked at him one last time affectionately. He went to the living room, and everything was where it should be. The faint scent of lavender from his diffuser, Oren's half-drunk coffee cup on the kitchen island, the cat asleep on the window ledge. Their life was perfect, too perfect to last. Kale sat at the edge of the bed and stared at the ring on his finger. He remembered their contract, 3 years, then separation. The deadline was in 6 months. But what was the point of waiting? Why cling to something that never truly belonged to him? Goodbye letter. The room was quiet as Kale wrote the letter by hand. Neat, clean handwriting, no smudges. He chose his words like blades, sharp but soft enough not to bleed too much. "Oren, this isn't goodbye because of hate. It's goodbye because I care. I want you to be happy, even if that happiness doesn't include me. You were never obligated to stay, and I won't be the weight that keeps you from flying. Thank you for the memories, for trying, for holding my hand when I had nightmares, for making this fake marriage feel like home." He placed the letter on Oren's pillow, slid off his ring, took one last look at the place they built together, and then he walked out. Next morning, Oren wakes up. The apartment was eerily quiet. Oren stretched, reached out blindly across the bed. No Kale. Kale? He called. No response. He got up, brushing his hair back, heading toward the kitchen. Still no Kale. His eyes landed on the bedroom. The bed was perfectly made. Too perfectly. Then he saw the letter. And the ring. Oren reads the letter. His hands trembled as he read Kale's words. By the second paragraph, his breathing became ragged. By the end, he sank to the floor. The letter crumpled in his fist. The ring pressed into his palm like a brand. What the hell? Oren whispered. Then suddenly the realization hit him. The contract. 3 years, he muttered. He thinks I still want that damn contract. His voice broke. I don't. I haven't for a long time. Feral mode. Activated. Oren stood up like a man possessed. He tore through the apartment, checking security footage, contacting his assistant, pulling travel logs. He left the country, he hissed, staring at the last ping of Kale's credit card from the airport. He canceled all board meetings, shut off investor access. The company ran on autopilot. He's somewhere. He has to be somewhere. He searched for him like a man without air, flying across continents, checking archaeological sites, universities, even old colleagues Kale once mentioned. He hadn't slept in days. The world noticed. The once polished, calm CEO of Vale Industries was suddenly feral, unshaven, unhinged. The media notices. Is Oren Vale spiraling? CEO disappears after rumored marriage fallout. Vale Industries drops 4% as Oren misses 4th board meeting. His PR team begged him to come back. He ignored every call. Find Kale, he told his security team. I don't care what it costs. Flashback. Oren remembers. He sat in an empty hotel room in Cairo, staring at the night sky. His fingers clutched Kale's ring like a lifeline. Why didn't I tell him? He whispered to the dark. He remembered their mornings, Kale pouring his coffee just the way he liked it. The way Kale laughed only when they were alone, that tired little smile after a long day. He remembered waking up one night to Kale having a nightmare, sweaty, shaking, whispering things from his childhood. I held you, Oren muttered. I held you all night. Why didn't I say it then? Chapter 3. Found you, my love. In a dim hotel bathroom. Cairo, 1 month ago. Water trickled from the sink tap. Oren sat on the cold marble floor of the hotel bathroom, his suit soaked with sweat and sand, his knuckles white as he clutched Kale's worn scarf, the last piece of him he could hold onto. His head leaned against the wall, body trembling from sleepless nights and blind searching. His heart ached so violently it was a miracle he could still breathe. And then, finally, the dam broke. Oren whispered, broken, Come back, please. Come back to me. And he sobbed. A CEO, a billionaire, a genius. Now a man with no pride, no mask, just grief. 1 month later. Somewhere in northern Egypt, heat, sand, dust, bones. Kale Thorne stood under a faded tarp, brushing dirt from an ancient stone tablet, surrounded by a team of archaeologists. He was tanned from the sun, leaner than before, dressed in khakis and a loose shirt rolled to his elbows. His eyes glowed with focus. He was finally living his dream. No boardrooms, no contracts, no fake marriage. Just him and history. Until Kale. The shout pierced through the buzzing wind. Kale's brush froze midair, that voice deep, familiar, aching. He turned. There, standing amidst the sandstorm was Oren Vale. Not the pristine CEO from headlines, but a shadow of him. Clothes torn, hair messy, covered in dust, face sunburnt, jaw trembling, eyes glowing faint gold. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks, because he hadn't. And his eyes were locked on Kale like a dying man seeing water. Oren, Kale breathed, heart stopping. Oren stumbled forward, voice hoarse. You left me, he whispered. You just left. Why? Before Kale could speak, Oren reached him. And without a word, he leaned in, buried his face into Kale's neck and scented him violently, possessively. Right there, in front of the entire team. Mine, Oren growled. Mine! My mate. My Kale. His scent exploded, rich, dark, earthy, and addictive. A storm of enigma pheromones flooded Kale's senses. Everyone gasped. Some backed away instinctively. Even Kale's alpha instincts shivered. Oren, not here, Kale hissed, breath hitching. But Oren didn't care. He gripped Kale's jaw, breath shaky. His eyes gleamed yellow, enigma instincts in full control. Now you can't leave me. I'll never let you go again. That night, Kale's tent, desert camp. Kale paced, hands in his hair, still dazed. Why? Why are you here? Oren stepped in, quietly closing the tent flap behind him. His voice was low, raw. You left me. You were with your ex. I never touched him. Oren's voice cracked. I was waiting to introduce him as a business investor, that's all. You didn't even let me explain. I thought you'd be better off with someone who wasn't me. But I don't want someone else, Oren growled, stepping closer. I want you. I've always wanted you. But the contract? Screw the contract. I didn't know I'd fall in love with you when I signed it, but I did. Somewhere between our dumb breakfasts and you stealing my side of the bed every night, I fell for you. Oren? But Oren was trembling now, not from anger, but from need. I can't let you go. Not again, not ever. His hand reached for Kale's neck. Thumb gently brushed over his alpha scent gland. Kale froze. That's not meant to be marked, he whispered. It'll scar. Good, Oren whispered back. Let the whole world see it. Kale should have pushed him away, but he didn't. Clothes were shed in silence. The air was thick with sand and desperation. Oren pushed Kale onto the cot like he was afraid he'd vanish again. Their mouths met hungrily, desperately. Not just lust, longing. Years of unsaid words and withheld touches. You always smelled like storm after rain, Oren whispered against his collarbone. Like thunder and safety. I was addicted from the beginning. They'd made love before, many times in their marriage. But this was different. This time, Oren snapped, I can't take it anymore, he whispered, trembling. If you leave me again, I'll break. Suddenly, Oren bit down hard on Kale's alpha scent gland, marking him permanently. Kale cried out sharply, a deep, raw shout of pain. His alpha body not built for being marked like that. But Oren didn't stop. His enigma instincts surged, unstoppable. You're mine, he growled against Kale's throat. Mine. Mine. And in the next moment, he nodded him, fully making them soul-bound to each other. Kale arched under him, eyes wide, breath punched from his lungs. Oren, he gasped, body shaking from the sudden fullness, emotions the sting of the mark, the overwhelming bond crashing down on him like a tidal wave. Shh, Oren murmured, voice hoarse with emotion. Let me in. Let me soothe it. Oren's enigma. Pheromones erupted, thick and heady, flooding the tent like a warm golden fog. It wrapped around Kale, wrapped inside him, smothering every tremble, every ache. His body, once rejecting the intrusion, now melted under the weight of it. The pain eased. The bond sealed. Kale collapsed into Oren's arms, panting. You marked me, he whispered, dazed. I had to, Oren whispered back. I couldn't take the thought of you vanishing again. He held Kale tighter, voice shaking. I know you're an alpha. I know your gland wasn't meant for this, but I had to claim you. I needed to keep you. And Kale, for the first time in a long time, didn't fight it. Because beneath the desperation, there was love. Real, terrifying, undeniable. They stayed together the entire night. Oren mated Kale over and over again, each time gentler, deeper, more devoted. By dawn, the mark was glowing faint gold, just like their bond. Afterglow. Early morning. They lay tangled together in the cot. Kale's throat bruised, his scent gland pulsing with heat. Oren's knot still inside him, keeping them fused. Oren buried his face in Kale's neck, voice barely audible. I came to bring you home. Kale, exhausted, whispered, I thought I didn't belong with you. Oren held him tighter. You're the only thing that's ever felt like home. Chapter 4. The Truth Comes Out. Morning. Kale's tent, desert camp. Golden sunlight filtered through the tent flap. The scent of earth and Oren still clung thick in the air. Kale lay awake in Oren's arms. His body still ached, his scent gland sore from the enigma mark, and his lower back still sore from the nodding. But it wasn't the pain that kept him up. It was the silence. He marked me. He nodded me. So why now? Kale turned slowly in Oren's arms. The younger man looked peaceful for once, lips slightly parted, lashes long over his sun-darkened cheeks. So different from the composed CEO the world knew. So human. And yet, Kale nudged him awake gently. Oren. Oren stirred, eyes blinking open. Kale? His voice was rough, heavy with sleep. Kale sat up, pulling the blanket around himself. Why now? He asked. Why mark me? When you never did before? We were married for 2.5 years. We shared a bed. You never even nodded me once. And now, after I left, you suddenly mark me and tie me like it's the end of the world. Silence. Oren pushed himself up, eyes wide with guilt. He swallowed. Because I thought I wasn't good enough for you. Kale froze. You were older, smarter, more experienced. You ran a billion-dollar company before I even graduated college. I hated you for how perfect you were. Until I fell in love with you. I didn't mark you because I didn't want you to feel trapped. You were already doing so much for our contract marriage. I thought if I pushed too far, if I claimed you before you truly accepted me, it would only push you away. His voice trembled. But when you left, I realized that not marking you was the worst mistake I ever made. Kale's eyes burned. He looked away. I thought you didn't want me because I was older, less exciting, less worthy. Oren reached out, cupping his cheek. You're the most extraordinary person I've ever met. I only ever felt younger around you because I looked up to you. I loved you quietly, until I couldn't anymore. Emotional reconciliation. Inside the tent, Kale leaned into Oren's touch, voice cracking. So we were both fools. Oren nodded, smiling gently through wet lashes. The biggest. Their foreheads met. And in that moment, there were no misunderstandings, no contracts, no ghosts from the past. Only two people who had spent years orbiting each other, finally colliding. Make love to me, Kale whispered. Again? Oren blinked. No. Kale's voice softened. Not because you're afraid. Not because you're desperate. Just because you love me. Oren didn't answer. He just kissed him. This time, it wasn't about instinct. Oren touched Kale like he was fragile, sacred. His fingers brushed the bite mark on Kale's scent gland, now sealed and glowing faint gold. He kissed it reverently. Does it still hurt? He asked quietly. No, Kale whispered. Not anymore. Their hands intertwined, slow, warm, real. They made love with tears in their eyes and whispers on their lips. No more pretending. No more distance. Only love. Returning home. Private jet. A few days later, Kale stood on the steps of a private jet, the desert far behind him. His sun-browned skin contrasted sharply with the sleek gray of his suit. Oren stood beside him, freshly groomed. His aura of power returned, but his eyes never left Kale. I cleared your schedule, Oren said, but we can go anywhere after this. If you want to go back to the dig site, we will. I'll build you your own museum if you want. Kale chuckled, bumping shoulders with him. Slow down, golden boy. Let me see if I survive this jet ride first. Oren grinned. As you command, my alpha. Kale glared. Say that again and I'm jumping off midair. So dramatic, Oren sighed lovingly. They boarded the plane together. For the first time as mates, not as business partners or contractual spouses. Valethorn Mansion arrival. The mansion hadn't changed, but everything inside it felt different. Kale walked through the entryway in silence, the memories of years spent here washing over him. He paused at the kitchen. You replaced the espresso machine. Yeah, Oren shrugged. You kept yelling at it. I thought maybe I'd win some affection points if I got one that listened better. Kale rolled his eyes, but he was smiling. They cooked together that night. Oren set the table. Kale burnt the garlic. They laughed. They bickered. The cat, still alive and very entitled, climbed onto Kale's lap. He missed you, Oren murmured. So did I. Bathroom mirror, that night. Kale looked into the mirror as he unbuttoned his shirt. He tilted his head. The golden bite mark on his neck shimmered under the lights. Permanent. Irrevocable. He touched it. And for the first time, he smiled at it. Chapter 5. Our Family. 1 month later. Morning, Vale Thorn Mansion. Kale stood in the bathroom, staring at the digital test strip on the sink counter. 2 pink lines. He didn't blink. Didn't breathe. His hand trembled slightly as he reached out to touch it again, just to be sure it was real. But it was real. Pregnant. It should have been impossible. He was an alpha, not biologically designed to carry life. But Oren wasn't just any alpha. He was an enigma. The rare, ancient, top-of-the-line genetic miracle. Enigmas didn't follow the rules. And now, Kale's body didn't either. Kale's dilemma. Office, later that day. Kale worked from the home office, papers spread in front of him, but his eyes kept drifting toward the sealed envelope tucked beside his laptop. The medical report. He hadn't told Oren yet. What if he panics? What if he thinks I'm too fragile? What if he locks me in a tower like a cursed princess? Kale snorted at his own thoughts. And yet, he wasn't entirely wrong. Oren had been extra attentive ever since they returned from Egypt. Clingy, watchful, hands always around his waist, lips never far from his throat. You're mine now, he always whispered. And Kale liked it more than he cared to admit. Still, pregnancy? That was different. Oren finds out that night. Kale stepped out of the shower, toweling his hair when he heard the sound. A sharp breath, paper rustling. He turned to find Oren standing in the doorway, frozen, his eyes glued to the open envelope on the table. The pregnancy report. Kale's heart jumped. Oren! But he didn't get to finish. Oren dropped to his knees right there. His hand covered his mouth, and then he started laughing and crying all at once. I knew it, he choked, voice cracking. I knew you'd give me everything someday, even if you didn't mean to. Kale's throat tightened. I didn't hide it because I didn't trust you. I know, Oren whispered, standing and cupping Kale's face. But I'm so glad I found it, because now I get to love you harder than ever. He kissed him, so softly it made Kale's knees weaken. Balcony under the stars. A week later, Kale and Oren sat on the penthouse balcony, city lights glittering below like diamonds. Kale leaned back against Oren's chest, wrapped in a blanket. In his hands was the first sonogram photo, a tiny dot nestled in a black void, already stealing both their hearts. We made that, Kale murmured. Oren kissed the top of his head. We are that. Us, forever. There's no going back now. Good, Oren whispered into Kale's neck. I don't want to. You're mine forever, and I'm yours. Kale didn't reply. He didn't need to. His fingers laced over Oren's on his belly. Pregnancy routine. 4 months later, Kale's baby bump had begun to show, a gentle curve he often rubbed absent-mindedly while working. But working was difficult when your husband was an enigma-shaped shadow at your side 24/7. Kale sat at the boardroom table speaking confidently to a group of international clients. Oren stood behind him, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. Every time someone addressed Kale, Oren's eyes flicked to them, calculating, protective, almost threatening. Kale cleared his throat, annoyed. Ren. What? Stop glaring at the VP. He looked at your lips for too long. Kale groaned. I'm pregnant, not made of glass. You're mine, Oren corrected, which means everyone who looks at you wrong gets their career erased, including the VP. Kale sighed. You're obsessed. Obviously, Oren said without a hint of shame. And he wasn't joking. Domestic bliss. 6 months pregnant. Kale waddled into the kitchen at 2 a.m., craving cherry pie. Oren was already there, half asleep, shirtless, burning something in the oven. I smelled your craving from the bedroom, he mumbled. Kale blinked. Did you just bake pie in your sleep? Don't ask me how it turned out. He handed over a plate, brushing Kale's hair back as he kissed his temple. I'll do everything, Kale. Just don't ever leave me again. Kale held the warm plate and smiled, heart full. Where would I go now? Oren leaned down and whispered, lips barely grazing his marked gland. Exactly. 8 months pregnant. Kale was huge now. Round belly, glowing skin, radiant and powerful in a quiet, dignified way. Oren, meanwhile, had grown feral with devotion. He wouldn't let Kale walk alone, wouldn't let him attend solo meetings, and definitely wouldn't let any strangers within 5 feet of him. I'm going to need to breathe eventually, Kale teased one night. I'll build you a palace with purified oxygen, Oren said, dead serious, rubbing Kale's belly like it held the sun. And if I sneeze? Emergency protocol, hospital helicopter. Kale cackled. You're impossible. I'm yours, Oren growled. And Kale, tired, aching but full of warmth, leaned in and kissed him. Baby room, 1 week before due date. Kale stood in the baby's nursery. Soft lighting, ivory walls, tiny clothes already folded. Oren came up behind him, wrapping arms around his swollen middle. Our family, he whispered. Kale leaned into him. Our forever.